You're listening to the NixMyth Podcast,
connecting you to living truth.
If you'd like to support our podcast, rate us on iTunes.
Or join our inner circle through patreon.com.
And don't forget to share this on social media so that all of your friends and family can know what you're listening to.
Hey, we're your hosts, NixMyth.
And Kylie Jo Smith, and this episode is all about community.
That's right.
Not the TV show. Sorry.
That was a show.
Rewind.
I forgot about Community being a whole show. Not about the show Community.
No.
Shout out to Childish Gambino.
Sorry if
I know him. I said it like I know him. Like we're friends.
Hey, Childish. I just call him Childish.
See Gams. That's my boy. If
I
you
call
know
him by
him,
his real name,
uh,
which I will not be saying on this episode.
tag him in this if you know it, and then maybe he'll listen. Anyway, we wanted to talk to something that's really like close to our heart, and that is community.
Yeah. So it's been coming up in conversations,
Yes.
and it's something that as adults, I don't remember ever being taught, like in younger years, like here's how you build community and here's why community is important. And here are all the benefits of having a healthy community around you. Those were not things that were ever said or that I remember being said when I was a young adult or as a teenager. It was just kind of like, go out into the world and try to make it.
Yeah, as a kid, your community is pre-made for you. Like you show up to school and there are friends. Some of you who are a certain age, you would have friends in your neighborhood maybe, or if you have like a covenant community you were raised in or something like that.
Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts.
Yeah, you have these pre-made communities, and that happens all the way up through
church,
college, really. And then once you get out of college, people are like, all right, just go to work and die. Like that's the next two steps.
Well, and like work kind of becomes your community, but not always in a healthy way. Like sometimes
true.
Like and we were talking about this recently and how we do not understand this. So if this is something you feel strongly about, this may disappoint you. But this concept of like having work family, like work husband, work wife.
Oh, yeah, no,
we
work
were like,
husband
the
and
first
wife.
time we heard that, I was like, excuse me?
No. We don't do that. That's not okay.
No. 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 That
can't
crossed
happen.
some lines real fast.
If you got a work wife or work husband, repent.
You don't have one. Let's just.
I mean,
you
if
ain't
you're
got one.
If you're married and you have
I guess we had work husband and wife when we were
when we were working together before.
I guess technically that was okay. But.
Yes, but like, yeah. So having sometimes like our work community, those lines are weird, and then you have work friends that never translate outside. Like you never hang out outside of work.
Yeah.
Or if you do, it's just like briefly outside of work, and those are friends that you can't truly connect with on deep levels.
Yeah.
A lot of times. Now there are exceptions to all of this. So if you're like, well, my work friends or my family, like, okay, that's cool.
I think, and honestly, like my job, I think lends to that more. But I have a job with like a bunch of artists. We're all very emotional people, artsy people who feel very deeply, and we all connect on that level. And it's just like we're like a big family. No, I'm just kidding.
Doesn't sound pompous at all. That doesn't sound any.
No, but really, like I think certain industries probably lend to those family dynamics more, and even like the amount of time you spend working on projects together versus like being in an individual driven job or like a corporate job. Like those are, it's just different. Yeah. But all that to say, work can become your community, but it might not always be healthy or fruitful for you.
Yeah, there has to be, I think the reason why it's not always healthy or fruitful is because work becomes a de facto or like a default community. And it's similar to school and all these things where you show up and you're just like, okay, I guess these are my people now. And there's a lack of intentionality. There's a lack of purpose behind building community. And again, as a kid, you just walk up to somebody you think is cool, and you're like, "Hey, we have the same shoes on. We should be friends." And like most of the time, that works.
Class.
Yeah, and that works for a while.
Yeah.
And then as we get older, we just kind of forget how to do that. But as believers, community is very important. Like God refines us through community. God builds us through community. God sanctifies us through community. And a lot of times, God calls us out of our nonsense through community.
Ooh,
and
don't
we
like that
have.
part. Skip that.
Yeah,
fast forward.
What was that last episode? Accountability. What was that? Accountability. When you don't want it, that's what happens. But community is important, and I think it's important for us to understand when we look at Scripture, when Jesus is talking to his disciples, or in the Old Testament, when God is talking to his people, very rarely is he referring to a single person. Moses, David. Like there's these certain call out moments, but
Yeah.
the majority of scripture is referring to God saving a people
Yeah.
and God sanctifying a people and God utilizing a people to bring about change in the world.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's like this everywhere because I've only lived in the United States, but here, our Christianity has been hijacked by this kind of rugged individualism. And you've heard us talk about this before if you've listened to the podcast, but that is not biblical Christianity.
Yeah.
The do-it-yourself Lone Ranger Christianity that says, if I can't figure it out, then it's not worth doing, or it's just me and Jesus, me and my Jesus.
Yeah.
That's not historic or Orthodox Christianity. Like we have always been called to be a people of God.
Yeah.
Like he saved you from your sin for community.
Yeah. Well, and of course, again, speaking to like our context culturally,
Yeah.
Like nationalistically, it's very different because we live in a nation where being a Christian, openly being Christian is not, it's not frowned upon.
Yeah.
Generally, by the government or the powers that be. Now, there are exceptions to this, obviously, if there are Christians who live in isolated areas where like you have to live under the cover of night in order to be a practicing Christian. That's different. We're not talking about people in that situation. So we're talking about the conscious choice to avoid or forsake community in order to, and we do it for different reasons.
Yeah.
We can do it out of fear because if people really know me, they're not going to want to be around me. It's a lie that we tell ourselves because we believe we're the only one struggling with the thing we're struggling with. We believe we're the only one who is going through this. And the enemy wants us in that place of, well, like they don't really accept you, like truly if they knew you. Yeah. And so, we avoid it on purpose for reasons like that. But we also can find ourselves getting into just the daily rut of like, go to work, come home, do this. I don't have time. I'm too tired. I'm so busy. And then we also avoid it, like maybe unintentionally, by making excuses for other people. Yeah. With this, like, I really like, maybe we're thinking like, oh, I want to go out. I want to do this thing, but I want to call that girl, but like, she's probably busy because like she has a family and
which like that has been the bane of adulthood, I think, for me. Yeah. Not only because my thoughts have gone there sometimes of like, oh man, I know they've got kids or they've got a job where they get up early in the morning or they got all this stuff. And so I start to make excuses for them. But a lot of times that bites me in the butt because I'll like run into some people that I know and they're like, oh yeah, we were hanging out and doing such and such. Why didn't you guys call me? Oh, we figured you were busy. We didn't want to interrupt your family time.
Ouch.
And I'm like,
big ouch.
First off, like
first of all,
like do me the honor of letting me say no. Like, you know what I mean? Let me define my boundary, please, if that's okay with you. I think it's easy for us to make excuses for other people, but as we were kind of discussing this the other day, the root of that, I think, is fear of rejection.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. Like, and it's not, I'll say this, it's not because I think negatively of the other person. Like like I can think of several people that I've had this, I've been outwardly processing with my husband. Like, oh yeah, I miss that person. I really want to talk to this person about this. And then I'll like start to think about like, oh, it'd be so cool and so great. But then there's this like little seed of like, I guess it's almost the question of like, well, where's the proof that they would even want to talk to you about that? Or where's the proof that like, how do you know that like they feel the same way? And it's just like a little tiny thing. And then it turns into, but you know what? They're probably busy. So
that's
you know what?
Devil.
It is. It 100% is. But like I get there and I'm like, it's because I get so excited about the idea of like connecting with someone else and like having the conversation or going and doing the thing. And then I just like get scared. It's like a fear of like, oh, but what if they don't really want to? Yeah. And what if they don't really want to, but then they're like afraid to like they don't want to hurt my feelings. So then they do it out of pity.
Like, stop it. Like that.
If you feel the same way, if you've had these thoughts, you're not alone. But also like, how do we overcome this? Because I don't want to feel that way. I want to be able to like, I have some things I want to book with my friends in the next couple weeks. Yeah. So I'm trying to overcome this so that I don't talk myself out of it.
Yeah. So here's the first way you overcome it. Okay. Stop it. Just cut it out. Just don't do that.
No.
Look at me. Stop it. No, I'm just playing. The first way, like, I think part of that is you have to give the person the ability to respond. Like, there's a lot of times where we have the conversation with ourselves before, like the parable of the prodigal son. Thank you. I was like, the son who's gone and he's doing the
most
things.
famous parable.
I know, but I
forget
couldn't
that.
think of the word prodigal for some
The
reason.
miracle of the water to wine. Got it.
It's the loaves and little swimmy things. What are they called? Fish. There it is.
Savior of the world. Got it.
For God so loved the world, he gave his only boy child. What is it called? Come on, quick. What's fresh? Anyway, going back. So the parable of the son,
Yes,
the prodigal son. Thank you. Now I'm on the other fish, and God so loved the world. So on his way back to see the father, he already had both sides of the argument figured out.
Oh, that's right.
Like, he was already planning the argument. He was already like,
Yeah.
okay, he's going to say this, so I need to already prep and be like, I know I ran away. I know I'm not worthy to be your son, but if you would just so happen to give me the grace. And so he was already preparing in his mind instead of simply going to his father and just being like, hey, I'm sorry. He like was already preparing the argument. I think we do that a lot because it's a natural reaction to protect ourselves from rejection.
Yeah.
Like, we do it because we don't want to be the one rejected. And we put a lot of stock in people we care about, which is okay.
Yeah.
Like, we should. However, it's fear and fearing from the Lord, that kind of fearing from the Lord.
Yeah.
That is not the fear of the Lord. That is fear of man that puts us in a place that says, well, I really want to be their friend and I want to hang out, but if they can't, then that for some reason is a shot against my identity or against my personhood. It's like a personal attack.
Yeah. And like, again, I never think anything about any of my friends, like about them personally. It is totally a self-focused thought that starts and ends with me. Like, it literally, it's no reflection on their character or anything they've ever done or not done. It's merely, but then it's like, I remember seeing, I don't know if it was a meme or what it was. It was like, sorry, I'm laughing at it now because it felt real.
I'm so ready for this.
It was like me rethinking every interaction I had with with people at a party, because secretly they don't really even like me or something. Like, it was like something along those lines, and the person's like rethinking like every conversation I had because they're all putting up with me. But I think it's just another side of like imposter syndrome. Like, it's just another one of those, like, of everyone in the room, I'm the only one who's like a phony and everyone's gonna find out.
But everyone has those thoughts sometimes. Like, what if nobody really wants to hang out? What if like, as I'm building, talk to the microphone.
Yes,
there we go. What if I'm the only one who wants to actually engage in this friendship, and we allow other people's busyness or other people's lives in general, or maybe one time that someone says no, it's like, oh, well, I can never ask them again because they're always busy. No, they were busy that one time. But building community, it requires risk. It requires a risk of stepping out, because anytime you're in a relationship with people, it's messy. People are messy in general. And so if you're wanting to build deep, lasting friendships and relationships with other people, you have to be willing to risk being hurt sometimes. You have to be willing to risk misunderstandings, having to define boundaries, like having to clarify. These are things that happen when you're willing to engage in deep relationship. And we can't build true community without being willing to risk that, because it requires a sense of openness. And it has to be an openness. My thought process, I was like, wait a second, I don't want to say that wrong. Your openness to them in relationship can't be an openness in order to receive validation or identity from them, though.
Ooh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't be like, all right, I want to be part of this community, and once you say you're in, then now I'm validated as a human.
Wow.
It has to be like, you have to have a primary identity first. It has to be rooted. I'm talking to believers in Christ specifically, but even deeper than that, if you're not a believer in Jesus, and you don't have that identity, that may be why it's so difficult when there's rockiness in friendships.
Yeah, or that like people talk about like social anxiety, and awkwardness. Like the there's like a culture of awkwardness, and I know some of it is like we all went through something together collectively, globally, that like shifted how we engage with one another in person. Like for a long time, we weren't even allowed to be physically close to each other
in the same room.
Like there's a lot of that that's still like up here and still affects us.
Yeah.
Today there was a reference at my job that was made about, we work with animals sometimes on stage, and so like we had to give 6 feet of space between us and an animal, and somebody literally was like, triggered. Like it was a joke, but it was like, oh my gosh, I remember we had to be 6 feet apart all the time.
Yeah.
But all that to say, like there's a little bit of us that's still collectively processing that. Like we want to be in community, but like now we've like lost a little bit of the art of being close and vulnerable and like opening ourselves up to those things. And so like the idea of risking rejection makes me feel awkward. Like it like makes me have this like I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to lose you forever. And like
that goes so deep so quick. Like
it really does. And like
I don't even understand why we do that.
It's not
as
just
people.
I feel like we really minimize it by calling it awkwardness or social anxiety, because it's rooted in like identity crisis and
fear of rejection,
loneliness. Like there's a deep loneliness and longing that we don't quite know what to do with, and so it just comes out in like, I'm just gonna say the first thing that comes out of my mouth, and like
I'll go ahead and reject myself. It's fine. I'll be over here by myself. It's cool.
Right.
But I think again the answer to that is not like there's not a tactic that we can give that's going to be like the fix all. However, apart from giving the like Bible Sunday school answer, like the answer really is Jesus. The answer is
just say Jesus when you walk up to people.
I mean, not like profanity.
Hey, Jesus.
It's Nick. I know. Cool.
Jesus.
Oh, Jesus.
You gotta be careful how you say it.
Yeah, you got to make sure put some respect on his name as you're saying that.
Respect on my man's name.
But no, I'm saying the answer though is having a solid understanding of who you are in Jesus, because once you have that solid, once you know, okay, this is who I am in Christ, then opening up the door to relationship with others is now less of a risk of damage to my identity. And now more it's like, okay, yeah, it's painful. It's frustrating when people can't meet. It's like you have to start like now going through other layers of it if you experience rejection, but you can't pre-reject yourself, and you can't also step into it without a sense of identity, because then any pushback, any delay in a response is all of a sudden they hate me and I am a worthless person.
And like, what is that thing called? It's like a social phenomenon where like something just reinforces another thing over time.
Something reinforces other thing over time syndrome. That's what it's called. Like, that's the scientific
but it's like,
name.
When you experience something from a certain
confirmation bias.
Confirmation. See, I knew he'd figure it out. I knew he was on it. But it's like when you experience something and then that affirms something you think, and it happens again and again and again and again, and you're like, oh, see, that's why I never invite friends over, because
even if it doesn't happen like 10 times in a row,
right? It could be just 2 times.
So
it's
the
like
one time it happens.
But like that's how we get in that place of like kind of stubborn bitterness.
Yeah,
it can manifest eventually into as that, and so like all this to say, building community. It's rough. Like
anyway, back to it.
And we also like we're a homeschooling family, and so like those institutions that generally parents inadvertently maybe it's not any no disrespect to the parents, but like that are relied upon to provide social outlets for kids. Like we have to work a little bit harder to find ways to get our kids to connect with other kids, and we have some great other like pockets of community that we've been able to like absorb them in, and we have our friends who have kids, and we have like little things that like enhance that. Church is a big part of that as well for our family, but like more than that, as adults with children, one thing we're finding, and I know there was like a really big boost at a certain point, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, of like we need to be more aware of single people and like what their life is like and the experience of being single when you're surrounded by married people. And I think that like is incredibly healthy and necessary.
Definitely.
And right now, what I'm finding is like we are surrounded by a lot of single people in our life, and it's just an interesting shift for us because we've gone through seasons where it's like, oh, like everyone around us mostly is married, and like until we experienced a shift in who we were around and who we chose to like invite into our circle, it was like mostly people just like us. But
Yeah.
then being around more single people, I now feel that like otherness at times.
Yes.
And not only single, but like younger, significantly younger people. Nick is in young adult ministry. I work in entertainment ministry, and like it's different. It's real different. Like being like 10 or more years older, 15 sometimes or
as
more
old as
years
people's parents
older.
now. We're there. We've had that stride.
Yeah, and like it's just a different feeling. Like I don't long to be included as in, oh, invite me out to the whatever thing, but it's more of like I want to be I want my voice to be relevant in the situation. I want to be able to like speak into things not as a mom to the people around me, but also like but I also want relationship with people. And it's a little bit of a challenge, like finding that balance between safeguarding our family time and really like valuing that in the community and letting people know that like, hey, this is important to us. This is sacred, but also wanting to have people around us and like involved in our life. So it's just a struggle that like,
well, I think
seasonal, I guess maybe
the words you said, safeguard, I think that's important because what that denotes is that it's our responsibility to guard our family time. And though I do appreciate when my friends are like, oh man, you know, you got to have your family time. I think that is something that as a healthy, mature couple who's not in crisis, not going through any nonsense, like we get it. We spend time together, but there are times where like, no, we want to open our home. We want to engage. We want to go out and go to a restaurant with friends. Like we want to engage in community in that way. And I think being intentional as a couple, even as like individuals in our own jobs and with our own friendships, part of our responsibility is to put ourselves out there and to engage and make plans, make time to build friendships and invite people over into our house intentionally. Because what we found, and I know y'all found this too, if you don't intentionally work towards building community, then it won't be built. Like it's not something that happens by default. And you have to be willing to ask and schedule and plan and invite people into your home. We have a very small home.
I know it looks huge from the angle you're watching on YouTube, perhaps.
But
it's a row home. It's a little row home.
Yeah, it's cute. It's awesome. We're blessed. But even in our small home, we have had to be intentional about inviting people over in order to build relationship because it won't happen otherwise.
Yeah. And even like, I think inviting people, I think the tendency is like apologizing for your lack of whatever you think people think you should have.
Yeah.
Which is insane that we can go that far into other people's thoughts, imaginatively.
Right.
But like when people come into your home, whether you have a large home that's like great for entertaining or whatnot, or you have a small 1-bedroom or studio apartment, it's the hospitality aspect that makes it welcoming and comfortable, not the venue. Like I never think like, I've never thought at a wedding, like, oh, wow, like the venue made it. Like, oh, it was that. It's the company. It's knowing the couple. It's being around people and like seeing the things you see and experiencing it in community. It's not just the physical space. And I think when we invited people, we had a small group that was meeting pretty regularly. And like, it was one of those things that like, we didn't know from week to week how many people we were going to have. And so, 1 week we had like 2 people and then we had like 10 or 11 people one time and our house quickly filled up. And the temptation was to be like, oh, I'm so sorry guys, I don't have enough seating. But then I was like, I'm not sorry because I'm just glad you're here. I'm just thankful that you took time to come and be a part of it. And so just as an encouragement, like you may not have a lot or you may not think you have a lot to offer in the space that you have, and you may not have enough the resources to provide a meal every time, but like
Yeah.
just inviting someone into your space is a way to build community that is like it builds trust, and it's showing vulnerability, because how you are in your home is different than how you are at work. I
Yeah.
hope. And it's like, I mean, unless you work at home, but
Sometimes.
but like
Sometimes.
it's just a different side of you, and people deserve to know different sides of you. And you
Yeah.
deserve to be loved on all sides. You deserve to have like people seeing your creative side and your goofy side and your serious side and like your sad side and your like spontaneous
how
side.
How many more sides
your
we got? Let's
carefree
go.
side.
Let's get these sides.
Oh, your super focused side. I can't do it anymore.
I just felt like you were...
Wait, I got one. Your British side.
I don't know if everyone has that.
I
side.
think everyone's got a British side.
I don't. I don't think that's
you don't, because you don't.
Standard things. I don't. Yeah, I'm not even gonna pretend. Okay, this last thing I'm gonna say about this, and then move on. One of the things you had mentioned was people deserve to know many of your sides, but I think the heart of that is we all desire to be known, and we all desire to know others. That is the core of the longing for relationship, is wanting to know that you're not alone, wanting to know that other people understand you, that they get you, that they see you, yet they still accept you. And part of being able to experience that is being willing to step out and be that for others, being willing to step out and invite others into your mess and let it be seen, let it be known. And if you don't build immediate, deep friendships with the first two people that you've invited into your life, don't give up, because that doesn't mean that you failed. That doesn't mean that you're not worthy of love or attention or relationship. It just means maybe those two aren't the people for you. And maybe that's not your squad. You got to rock with those who rock with you. And so have courage, take heart, and like building community is necessary, and you have to do it. Like you just have to. So
yeah, I think, and it's also like build community with unlikely people, because I think it's good to have affinity. It's good to have like a common interest, and certainly, and as believers, I think we really struggle with this, like getting to know people who are not Christians, like inviting people into your home. Like I think the default for Christians is like, let's have a Bible study. Like it's just,
I mean, Bible studies are dope. Like,
Bible
don't get me
studies
wrong.
are amazing.
I love Bible studies.
Yes, and there's some
go-to.
we have some sick fellowship.
Oh man, we fellowshipped so hard the other night.
Fellowship was like crazy,
legit fellowship.
But no, like I think that's an easy way to go, and it might be easy in the sense of like it's a great first step. If you don't know, like I don't really know, I'm not really like a party person or Bible study. If you feel comfortable walking through a book of the Bible, yes. But also for those of us who need a little bit more of a challenge, who need to like engage with people and learn more about others, like people who aren't like us. I think getting to know your coworker or your neighbor or, somebody that you see on a regular basis, just like, hey, I always run into you here at this time in this place. Can we have coffee? Like I just want to get to know your story. I want to know who you are. And like, finding ways to do that in a way that's not, like we don't have to try to convert the world over coffee. Like we don't have to do all of that in one setting.
Yeah.
But like the process of getting to know someone, like being known and wanting to know someone, like that is the heart of God.
Yeah.
Like he pursues us. He is relentlessly pursuing us. And if we can, in a not creepy way, be that way with others, like, hey, I want to get to know you. And just be open to what God has for us. Like, I think that's a way to build community and also build confidence in being a good friend and neighbor.
Yeah. Can I add one caveat to that, just in case?
Ooh, hold on. Okay.
Okay,
yeah,
you're
I'm okay
prepared.
with it.
The one caveat is, as a believer, as you're building friendships with non-believers, which we need to, you have to have friendships with people outside of the church. However, be very mindful of the lifestyle of those who influence you, because you can have friends who are not believers, but they have a whole different worldview on what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad. And so as they may be your friends, and that's awesome. When you're seeking counsel, when you're seeking advice, when you're pouring out your heart about your marriage, or like you want to make sure that there's not just affinity of like, oh, we both like sports, but an affinity, like an equalness in where you stand in how you live your life.
Yeah. That's that mutual respect and boundary setting that you talked about. Like, hey,
yeah,
like, yeah, that's important.
Because I've got plenty of friends who aren't believers. However, I know which ones I can and cannot allow to speak into my life over major issues or major decisions. And I also have some acquaintances who are believers who I'm like, we don't hang out much, but I know if I need counsel, like you're solid and I know I can reach out to you. And so, yes, make friendships. Kylie's 100% right. Just your inner circle.
Yeah.
The people that influence your life. Speaking of, shout out inner circle. Your inner circle should be believers.
Yeah.
Who are there to lift you up. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I think, influence versus like, never mind. I don't even know where I was going with that. I was like, influence versus insight.
Affluence.
Nope.
No, that's money.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we can wrap this up. I think community, like it's important to have community. If you find yourself in a place where you don't spend time with people outside of your job, or maybe you even at your job you don't really interact with people.
Yeah.
This is why you feel the way you feel. I think it's just normal. Like we're built for a community. Like this is literally, it's in our DNA that we need to look people in the eye. We need hugs. Like hugging is important and all of that. And so if you don't have it, seek it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do have it, find ways that you can widen the circle, like bring more people in and start hosting something, or start going out and meeting others, and just allow the Lord to work in those relationships. And don't make plans about your friend's busyness.
Yeah,
like,
don't assume.
Let's all stop assuming we're busy, and let's all stop having FOMO about everyone hanging out and we're just sitting at home. And that's not really happening. Everyone's just sitting at home thinking everybody else is hanging out.
Except for those two people that everyone's talking about. Like, they're all hanging out together. Anyway. All right,
so
y'all.
Let's just do that.
We thank you so much for listening and for watching and for hanging out with us. Please share this with somebody. Let somebody know that you want to be in community with them. Send them this to let them know you're trying to build that community.
Hint, hint. What do you think about this one?
We should hang out and watch the NixMyth Podcast together.
Actually, that would be a great idea. A watch party of Nix. Oh my gosh, like we're going to do that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We hope that this episode
has connected you to living truth.
Be blessed. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the NixMyth Podcast. We are so glad that you joined us, and we hope that you'll consider subscribing so that you can tune in each week. Don't forget to rate and share this podcast. And if you haven't already, follow us on social media. If you want to be a part of our family's mission to entertain, educate, and empower others, please consider becoming one of our Patreon supporters. Exclusive NixMyth merchandise is available to you through our online store at www.nixmythpodcast.com.